I've been in the game for over 2 decades, working with gangs, addiction, and mental health. And over the course of time, what I've learned is sometimes you have to journey through the dark to find your way into the light. And now, we're going to talk about it. Would you please join us for the movement with Mongo? All right, you know what it is and you know who it is. It's your man 50 Grand, the MONGO. I'm coming back with my follow-up with the Anastasia Pittman interview. I'm telling you, we found out a whole lot, we talked, and I'm still amazed at what I just listened to in the first part of this. Stacey, before I go any further though, and once again, before we go any further, I want to establish it's Anastasia Pittman to those who are not from the hometown. Stacey's a name that I can call. I don't want you walking up saying, Stacey, that's not you. That's the MONGO. Anastasia, Stacey.
Yeah.
I've
It makes
got something
sense.
for you.
I had a guy call me Stacy from Spencer. You Stacy from Spencer? I said, that's me.
Because that's all we knew you as.
That's right.
Okay. I brought up earlier that you're one of the greats in politics, longevity, the tenure, the time that you spent working and helping people. And before I show this,
Okay.
I walked with you several times because you would have me come out to the Capitol during
Right.
bullying, and I would speak
Yes,
for you.
the bullying rally.
I'm going to have to post one of those old pictures on my Facebook.
Okay.
I'm just Facebook, and I don't know Twitter and
That's
Facebook,
okay.
but I'm doing it. One of the things that I loved about you, that I'll try to make sure myself, everybody is important.
Absolutely.
I watched you walk from your car. We walked from your office down the hallway, on the elevator, out to your car. I'm not making this up. Because she is Anastasia Pittman, representative, senator, what have you. She got stopped about 28 times. And all 28 of those times, she stopped. And you literally, how are you? Is your day going well? I missed you. You knew everybody that stopped you.
Yeah.
And the ones that you didn't, I was like, well, did you know him? No. But he needed to know that he was important to me.
He was important.
That's the type of politician that I want to vote for, because I knew from watching you, that was not fake. And many times, let me tell you, it was frustrating, Stacey, because it should have been a quick walk, elevator to the car. It should have took 5 minutes. It ends up taking about 30 minutes. I'm not making that up. But I went back to my house that day and I called my mom and I said, Mom, you should have seen how Stacey treated these people. She is a representative to her name, because it wasn't insincerity. You literally, and on one, this person had a complaint about something. You took the name down, you wrote it on a pad, you took it out of your purse, and you said, and as we were to your car, and I'm thinking, damn, this done took all day. I just need to get this. And so you took the pad out and you said, I need to make sure that I get this, because you were working with Miss Trina back then, because I need to follow up with this.
Yeah.
Stacey, that told me about your character. It told me about your passion. It told me why God has blessed you to be in politics.
Mercy.
Now, with that being said, is this true? I don't know if you can see this, but what it's claiming is that you're getting ready to make a comeback like the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. Is that true?
It is true.
It
is true.
Are you? This is not made up. This is not
it's
Steven
not made
Spielberg or camera trickery or fake news.
Nope, it's the real deal.
I have 2 of them.
Yes, it is the real deal. So
Wow.
One of the things that we always talk about in my family is being a public servant, being a servant. That's the highest title that
Amen.
we wear in our house. People may not always understand their purpose, but when you walk in your purpose and your calling, I've never considered myself a politician, just a public servant.
Amen.
And when you have servant leadership is now what we
Amen.
call it, because we've earned that executive experience. We've
Amen.
earned the trust of our community and trust of
Yes.
the people. And so what thing that honors me the most is sharing of my time. A lot of people in this hustle and bustle, when we're dealing with all tragedies, all walks of life, different levels of socioeconomic systems,
Amen.
everybody makes a different type of salary, come from a different background.
Amen.
But your story is what's important.
Yes.
And if you think enough of me to share your story with me, that I am going to respect that story just like Jesus walked on the earth. If he needed to heal somebody, he did it. If he needed to perform a miracle, he did it. And there were times when he didn't know he was going to do it. There were times when
That's right.
when his mother Mary said, "Listen,
Amen.
they out of wine.
Yeah.
You need to handle this at the wedding." And they said, "Listen, all
His
the
first
disciples
miracle.
came." He said, "Do whatever." She told them, "Do what he tells you to do."
Amen.
And so we have decided to be
Amen.
committed to this community, to our community leaders,
Amen.
to our constituents.
Amen.
And in order to do that, you must come when they call.
Wow.
And sometimes it is an inconvenience for others, but when it's your makeup, it's your DNA, it's who you are, it's what you do. This is who we are. This is what we do. And so it is my honor to announce my candidacy.
Wow.
It is. And I'm a candidate
An
for...
exclusive right here on
Yeah.
the movement with Mongo.
Yeah, I'm running for Oklahoma County Commissioner, District 1.
Wow.
We lost that seat in 2018.
Yes.
We thought we would have some more representation from our community. That did not happen. And so we now have another opportunity. God has brought the opportunity back full circle.
Amen.
And so that's why we are listing those 5-star plans, those things. So we'll come back
Okay.
and share those things with you. But
Wow.
we're excited. I've answered the call. I've had community leaders ask me, "What are you going to do now?" Because I've just graduated from law school.
Wow.
With a master's in legal studies for Indigenous Peoples
Oh, you
Law.
big time.
So we're doing it. We're doing it. Everything
big
that God puts our hands to, He blesses.
Amen.
He blesses.
Amen. But that's, you're dealing with, it's multi-layered. Let me first say this. Every politician, because I've known many, doesn't do what you do. That's not what you see. I've walked with you. If I had never grown up with you and knew your character,
Right.
that one day, that one walk
Wow.
changed my life.
Awesome.
I have walked with other politicians,
Oh, wow.
and that was not the case. I'm busy. I don't have time. Tell them to get back to you. You know, I literally watched you talk. It had to have been 28 something. It was
Yeah.
so many people, and literally, because I was frustrated.
I know.
And you know what was funny? I was needing something. We was going to the car because we was talking about some stuff we were doing. And I'm like, well, this girl, if you stop one more time, I'm going to lose
Listen.
my...
Well, the difference is when you're a public servant, it's one thing, but servant leadership is an oxymoron. Most
Right.
people don't think that leaders serve.
That's right.
But we do.
Amen.
We do.
But that truly is, and that's why I said
Yeah.
it was multi-layered.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about the spirit and the love of Christ,
Absolutely.
that's what he gave.
Yeah.
And his success rate is why people followed him. They didn't have social media. They didn't have television. They didn't have commercials. What would happen is this blind man who needed help and needed to see could now see. He runs and tell his mom and his friends, Jesus healed me.
Yeah.
That's what happens when we deal with Anastasia Pittman. In a comparison of just making things happen in people's lives. Hey, Stacy, these lights on this block aren't working.
Yeah.
Could you please put in a word to the right person?
Let's do it.
And they know that you're going to put in an action. And it may not happen when they want it, but when you see that end result
It's
and
in
it
motion.
finally gets done,
Yeah.
it's like, well, it may have taken a few months, but she had to go through the process. She got it done.
Got it done.
And so that's what we look for, is results.
Results.
Amen.
And you need real representation to get those real results. We do do a lot of things behind the scenes. We have storms where lights and power go out, but when you get a call because your local CVS or your Walgreens, the generator's gone out, the electricity's gone out, we have our own doctors and dentists on the northeast side of Oklahoma City, and when they call and say, hey, we got to give people their medications, our lights need to be on, you know, we have the relationships where we can pick up the phone and call a representative from OG&E and say, hey, this particular block, because they're getting complaints from all over. But when you establish a relationship, you can get a phone call back, and you can get some assurance of those lights that you gave me on 23rd and Martin Luther King, where Dr. McLeod is. We're gonna get those lights back on. And so when you have someone who believes in you, you go that extra mile. You are friends at midnight. We don't just turn it on and turn it off. You may be a representative after 9 o'clock. Because when you stop along the way just to say hi to that person or just to take 5 or 10 minutes out of your day, you don't know where they are in their social reality. And now that we have social media and Facebook, people in real time are committing suicide. And so if you stop and you catch somebody on their journey and all they're doing is pressing through the crowd to get to you, to say, if I can make it to her,
maybe she can help me. Maybe she can. Just that conversation to open that dialogue where I may not have had anybody to speak to at all. Or like I said, just felt hopeless. There's nobody listening. And that's the importance of what you just said. It bothered me, but every person. I'm not making this up. For those who don't know Stacy, for those of you who don't know her, I'm telling you that walk, and you know what I'm going to call it? I'm going to call it the walk, because that's what it was. We took one walk that should have probably on paper taken 7 minutes to get down the hall, down the elevator, walk out the building to the car. It took almost 30 minutes because there were people walking up, asking questions or needing something or just wanting to give an acknowledgement of hello. And she honored every person. Every last one of them.
Wow.
It made a difference in my life on how we do. And when I work in mental health right now, and one of the things that I hear a lot based off of what I just saw from you, which was already in me, was just, you know, you make me feel like I can be healed. You make me feel like I'm important, because my push is always grab your power. Become powerful. Don't you lay down. That's right. And if they have taken it, take it back. Take your power back. Amen.
And most people don't know that I had my license in mental health. I was a licensed professional for adolescents and youth, and I did a lot of work with Eagle Ridge. I did a lot of work with COPE Incorporated, with Dr. Scotty Haskins. But we have that walk is my faith walk. Every day that he wakes me up, if there's something I can pour into someone else, we're gonna take that journey, because you're gonna get a lot of detours on your destiny or your faith walk, your journey to being significant. We have moved beyond being successful. We've been successful.
Right.
But now we're in a state of mind that let's be significant. Let's give back. And that's the reason why I've accepted the call and the challenge to run for office again.
You also did this, and that's very important that you say that, because in a lot of communities that's dealing with color and low income situations, people do what we call getting to a level, and then they leave community and they leave behind.
And we've seen that.
Yes, we have.
Seen that.
So it's very important to give back and to build that community back up. You also just graduated.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Girl, you do everything but sell hot dogs at halftime.
Hey,
Could you tell them what you just did?
I just graduated. During the pandemic, we had some elongated classes and everything. But after I retired in 2018, I went to law school. It was a lifelong dream of mine to go. But my grandmother passed. And so my grandmother passed in 2017, and we always mourn for a year, but then we do something in their honor.
Yeah.
We speak their name, and we did something to
Amen.
honor her. So
Amen.
not only did my daughter, Representative AJ Pittman, and myself, we ran for office together on the same ballot in the same year in honor of my grandmother.
Amen.
Well, after I retired, I went to law school for Indigenous Peoples Law because she was Native American.
Yeah.
And she left all of these documents that were legal documents, case studies, very important papers, papers that documented our lineage, because a lot of people don't know that people of color in Oklahoma are indigenous.
Amen.
Most
Amen.
black people have some type of Native American roots
Yes.
or connectivity.
Like my grandmother,
And
yes.
absolutely. And so now I work in special projects at the Oklahoma History Center.
Amen.
And we're working on some documentaries and some videos where we are preserving
Wow.
the culture. We're preserving the language. My grandmother spoke 3 different languages. And so
Wow.
that's why she didn't do a whole lot of English speaking. But people don't know I was an educator for 10 years,
Yeah.
and they have not a clue that I was a Spanish teacher. So children learn what they live. You know, I came from Florida. I was born in Florida. My parents were living in Florida at the time. I'm the only one in my entire family born in Florida. But that was the language we spoke there. They spoke.
I'm gonna throw something a little funny out there while you telling this, because most
Go
people
ahead.
not go. She's got a huge level, because Grandma is Native American. Stacy wanted to try to have a afro.
I did.
She
Cut
did.
my hair.
But she couldn't really do an
couldn't
afro
do it.
because her hair was too fine to be in an afro. It would kink up real curly, and it didn't look like a fro.
It was not. It
But
was
she
not.
was trying to look like a
I got
Angela
it.
Davis.
I wanted Angela Davis. That's
She-
right. I wanted to be a newscaster
She
too.
did.
I wanted
She did.
That was all old people did at the time. At 10 o'clock, there was a commercial that came on that said, "It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your child is?" and then the news would come on, and they were like glued to the TV. And I thought that when I got older, I was going to be a news broadcaster. I wanted
Yeah.
to be the one who brought people the news,
Amen.
gave them encouragement,
Yeah.
and gave them information. I wanted to be that information station. But for me, it turned into radio.
Amen.
I had the Anastasia
Wow.
Pittman show for 15 years.
Do you hear what you just said? Is God good?
Yes, he is.
He manifested that in a different way.
Yeah.
It wasn't on TV, but
It
it was
wasn't.
assertive politics.
assertive.
All the stuff you just named,
Yeah.
you have done over a career's time and getting ready to do again.
Yeah.
County commissioner.
Yeah.
That's where we're going.
That's where we're going.
That's how we're doing it now.
We just have to answer the call.
Amen.
If you've been called, you just be obedient.
Amen.
And you say, listen, my life is, that's what it is. I am a
Okay.
servant. So if ever someone catches me not running for office,
Amen.
it's not to be a career politician.
Right.
It is to be available light.
Wow. Woo! Can I get a Ric Flair?
Yeah.
Woo! You've heard it
Yes, it
right
is.
here with Anastasia Pittman. Stacey, let me tell you, our time is short today, but there's some issues that we've got to talk about
Okay.
the next time that you bring in your SS Enterprise and drop it right here. We've got to talk about Black Lives Matter. And let me tell you, there's a 1,000 different views on that. At the end of the day, it's just wanting to hear your perspective
Okay.
and how it works. But more importantly, I've seen how we rallied for systemic changes with African Americans and how society has kept certain things in place where we continue to not have.
Absolutely.
I saw the world come together. What I haven't seen is in our own communities. My cousin was at a Black Lives Matter event here in Oklahoma. He was sitting on a car and was with my other cousins, and other men of color came up, gang stuff, had nothing to do with them, shot into the crowd. He got hit with a bullet and died
Mercy.
at a Black Lives Matter rally. The number one rate of homicide, the number one rate of death for men of color in Oklahoma is homicide.
It's homicide.
And generally by other men of color. Stacy, we got to talk on that.
We'll be back.
We can't let that.
We'll
let that
talk
go.
about
And I'm gonna tell you why it's important. But you know, I worked with gangs for many years, and it's like still this goes under the radar. And we are dealing with police officers who have, and granted, Oklahoma's one of the highest when it comes to that with
Right.
police officers and issues dealing with men of color. I am very pro-police because my cousin, Robert Allen, is a police officer, and
Right.
he's one of Oklahoma's finest.
All right, you
if
better
not
say
the
it.
best. Amen.
Well, and he risks his life every day.
That's right.
He risks his
That's
life.
right.
But I am going to bring a guest with me when we come.
Okay.
To talk about it, because I want you to meet an African-American, very successful man
Amen.
who is in mental health,
Amen.
but who was also at the rally, but who got arrested and labeled as a terrorist.
Wow.
And he got off, but basically, he videoed what was happening, and he got charged for it. But all the people in the
Wow.
video were the ones creating the riot and doing the stuff. And,
Wow.
and they weren't people of color.
Yes.
But because he had it on film and on tape,
Exactly.
they thought he knew him, and he didn't. And
Man, that's outrageous.
So you need firsthand accountability.
Amen.
I can speak to you all day about black on black crime. I can give you data, statistics. I can give you resources. I can give you solutions, policy changes, suggestions, all of those things. But I'm not a black male. And I need you to have that black
that
male
perspective.
perspective, because a lot of women will come together. We can tweet and Facebook and bring crowds
Yeah.
together, but we will never know
Yeah.
the pressure of being a black male or an African American male,
Amen.
and sometimes mixed heritage, mixed
Yeah.
culture. We have white and black males, but if they grow up as a black male, you
That's
can be
right.
lighter than me, nice hair, but if you say my daddy's black, you may very well become a target too.
Well, it's the identification. If you're identified as
Yeah.
black, then that's what you are.
Absolutely.
And so in those particular cases, that's what you're going to get. And once again, we're talking about issues in community. As you all know, the movement with Mongo was more than just about addiction. And we do a lot of things talking about addiction and finding your way out of that darkness and into the light. But we do, this is just
awesome.
many of the subject matters that some of the guests have wanted to talk about. Because we had a person who had brought up how their child something had happened with their child with gang violence.
Yeah.
And weapons. And so when I started looking at the statistics, they weren't different from when I was a principal. And it was like, wow, literally, the number one rate of death is homicide?
That's the part
Homicide.
that hurts. That's the part that hurts a community, because sometimes you have to look at other perspectives. You have to say, we're in this fight and we're in it together. And yes, we can save one black male at a time, but you have to wonder why education does not reflect more African American males in administration,
Amen.
not just in the classroom. We need more black male teachers, but we need more black male principals. We don't have a counselor in every school. So these students are coming to school with trauma because of what they go through in their home. And I've interviewed and rescued students who it was a badge of honor to go to prison, because my daddy went,
Absolutely.
my uncle
Absolutely.
went, and I'm no punk. I'm gonna do this.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna earn my name, and I got a street family.
That's right.
So there are lots of reasons, but you even have to look at the perspective of, does community policing work if you don't use community? Or do you just sit
okay.
back and let black on black crime take care of itself?
And that is what I see. From the time that I was in the game in education and dealing with some of these issues, and we did the film The List, we had a panel, a coalition with David Prater on it, who was very big, and Prater nowadays, most people don't, he gets some bad raps. But let me tell you something. David Prater, and I'm not switching gears, but he took during the shooting that happened that was one of our students at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
He took some heat from the Oklahoma community because he did not let this man get away with shooting this African-American male. Even though the boy was in the wrong, you know, I'm still known for saying, what did you think was going to happen?
But he was already shot.
He was already shot. He was already laying down.
Threat.
That's right. You get a gun and shoot him again. A lot of people in the, I'm going to say, the far left,
affluent communities or
felt like
liberal communities.
He deserved to get shot again, which is horrible. And Prater stood his ground and said, this boy was already unconscious. You cannot get a gun and shoot this boy again.
Well, and there were some details, you know, that Prater took the heat on because when you analyze stuff like that, it'd be different if we just did multiple shots in one instance and unloaded the gun, which is how we're trained. But if you can step over him, go outside the door and down the street, and then come back
and then get another gun. Went on and got another gun, came back and shot him.
And it's very difficult to be a DA because you want to charge people. And we're going through some difficult times right now
based on the law,
with Julius Jones.
Amen.
And that situation.
Other subject matters and topics that need to be talked about on this show right here. I'm just saying that because we brought up, you know, Prater's name just happened to, we popped that up. But I'm just saying that when it comes to him, I've known him for many years. That's a man who really stood up and said, this boy, I don't care if he came in and tried to rob it. And once he was on the ground and he was helpless, he did not deserve to get shot again and lose his life. He made a stand on that and was hated for many years by people in the Caucasian community who felt like, you come in my house, this is what's going to happen. You don't get to shoot them again if they've already
been disabled. You know, and he was under the influence of another adult. Giving him those directions. So, and that's why we don't make decisions so rapidly anymore. Even as elected officials, we need data. We need information. We have interim studies. We do specific things that will allow us to examine the opportunities, to explore solutions, and to expose some testimonies of how these laws impact real life people. And Facebook is not always going to give you that.
Facebook,
So you don't get Facebook allows our communities and students, younger people, to have some courage, but there's no accountability with it.
And it's a voice. And many of the people who are posting on Facebook, it's not an educated voice. It's just a voice.
It's just a voice.
And so when you start dealing with who's posting what and why they're posting it, you have to understand, are these people experts in this? Are they aficionados in this? That's right. A lot of times you're just posting what you feel is right based on your community, your situation, and how you were raised, and you have no insight on it at all.
But we want to give them training. We want them to learn how to look people in the eye, shake people's hands, fill out an application, know how your appearance should be, how you dress. So we've got a lot of issues that we're going to deal with the movement. We're going to talk about these issues because they're not going anywhere. And if we don't address them, or we don't care enough to have the courage to run for office, so that we speak on behalf of communities of color as well. Because we got some issues.
Well, this is where we're going to end at. Stacey, you're going to have to come back because we're going to have to start dealing with, number one, we're going to deal with Black Lives Matter. We're going to talk about it. We're going to deal with more mental health issues.
Absolutely.
We have to talk about it. And we're going to deal with the issue in communities. That statistic is appalling and sickening, that the number one rate of death for African-American males or men of color in Oklahoma is homicide. And why hasn't it gone down? And why haven't we put something in place, some type of plan to start detouring this or changing those numbers?
Well, and if you have the numbers, that's kind of like forewarned being forearmed.
Absolutely.
If you have the numbers, but we have the numbers, but we don't always have the millionaires. We don't always have the resources to fund those type of diversion programs and the things that we need.
Amen.
See a need for.
And
So
if you do
we'll
get
talk
it,
about it.
and if we do get it, we need a plan and we need implementation. Everybody talks about plans and putting things in place, but we also need to be able to implement it effectively. And so those are things that have to be talked about. And last but not least, you coming out of retirement like the greatest Muhammad Ali. One more time,
Yes.
we need to know what your plan is. If you are put in that position, what is the change that you see coming and how
Absolutely.
you see it coming. So
We'll be back.
for
That's a lot to talk about.
for those who are just catching up, it's the Mongo in the flesh with the one and only Anastasia Pittman. We are going to be leaving this show today, but I don't want to leave without saying this. If you're a parent who's dealing with a kid with addiction, if you're a family member who has addiction, we want you to look up the resources that you need to make sure that you don't give up, because a lot of those situations will leave you feeling hopeless. I think what we showed today, that in great situations of community and family and situations, what you can get from your family member, it doesn't have to be your child, it could be your mom, your sister, your uncle. You can get this right here. You can get
Absolutely.
an Anastasia Pittman, somebody who was fighting for the underdog, somebody who was looking out for the have-nots and those people who have a voice but it's not being heard. Guys, sometimes you have to journey through the darkness to find your way into the light. Today, I sat next to one of the lights in Oklahoma, Anastasia Pittman. We'll be looking for you again. Please join us, and God bless you for the movement with Mongo.